Welcome to the launch of In Certain Seasons Mother's Right in the Time of COVID. Thank you for tuning in. Before we start, we are requesting everyone to give a moment of silence for the Filipino writers who have gone before us since the COVID crisis began. We are dedicating this book to their memory. We will continue with our program. Ladies and gentlemen, the Philippine National Anthem. For our book launch this afternoon, we will have messages from significant people of the publishing institutions and producers of our bilingual electronic book. We will also have introductions by the book editors, reading and messages from the contributors, response from a Filipino reader, and last but not the least, we will have talks on poetry and writing from two mothers who are also part of the book in certain seasons. Again, welcome to the online launch of In Certain Seasons Mother's Right in the Time of COVID. This is brought to you by the Cultural Center of the Philippines Cultural Content Department through Intertextual Division, formerly known as the CCP Literature Division. This division is the office in charge of CCP literary events and publications. To formally start our program, here is a message from the Vice President and Artistic Director of the CCP, Mr. Chris B. Miliado.
I am Chris Miliado, Artistic Director of the Cultural Center of the Philippines, greeting you from home where I continue to work and conduct the activities of the center. The great pandemic lockdown of 2020 and the sporadic quarantine periods we continue to experience until today failed to extinguish the spirit of the creative and literary community. As public gatherings were deemed potential super spreaders, the art and literature moved to the digital online platforms. Digital books, collections, and anthologies, notably written by men and edited by men, were created and then released online. The CCP recognized the inequality and started the production of this ebook in cooperation with the Philippine Center of PEN International. In its more than 50 years of existence, this endeavor is proof that artistic content continues to evolve as it becomes more inclusive and cognizant of specific and unique voices that need to be heard from all sectors of society. In this crisis that we experience now, the medical frontliners have emerged as our modern day heroes. Least celebrated are the Filipino mothers who we consider as a special breed of frontliners. Their stories will help us get through these challenging times, not just because they tell the story of resilience, but carry lessons on dignity and grace. It is easy to forget these two very important values as we endure the profound unhappiness the deep inequities, and even the epic cruelties that this pandemic has stirred. These stories summon the values of dignity and grace to remind us of what distinguishes us as human beings, to create art, literature, and document the insights of the present times from a specific perspective so this generation and the children of the future can remember, learn, and do better. These are the stories that this anthology gathered. What mothers do in both uncertain times and in certain seasons.
To give us a message is a board member of the Philippine Center of the PEN International, our partner for this book project, Mr. Angelo R. Lacuesta.
In recognizing the role of mothers, we do not only recognize the role of women in our society, but their role in our very lives. In certain seasons presents us with a rare occasion of experiencing the inner voices of our nation's mothers during one of the strangest moments in our history. And we're still right in the middle of this moment, gripped with varying degrees of fear, anger, denial, and despair. As the pandemic lingers on and we continue to lead our lives in isolation and suspense, our need to connect has never been greater. We need to see our newly unfamiliar lives and selves reflected in the stories of the personal struggles and the day to day drama of others. At times like these, we don't always necessarily need big words of encouragement or hope, but also the everyday lightness of affection, humor, and tenderness. This is what mothers know, and this is when and why we cling to our mothers. PEN Philippines would especially like to thank the Cultural Center of the Philippines for being a powerful partner in bringing this necessary volume to life. Maraming salamat at mabuhay ang ating mga ina.
To tell us more about the publication process, the book, and its content, here are the editors. First, we have the writer, editor, teacher, and communication specialist, Dr. Jenny Ortuoste.
Good afternoon and welcome to the launch of In Certain Seasons. I'm Jenny Ortuoste and I edited the stories in English for this anthology. First, I must say I'm very proud and very happy to be part of this project launched by CCP and Philippine Pen. When Beverly Wicosi first approached me about working on a collection of works created by Filipino mothers about and during the COVID-19 pandemic, I leapt at the chance to participate in what I knew would be an interesting and significant project. In Certain Seasons, Mothers Write in the Time of COVID is a sort of journal of the plague year. This anthology brings together literary and art pieces from Filipino mothers in the Philippines and abroad who are coping with the challenges of the pandemic where is as is. The writers in this book come from different generations and backgrounds, and showcased here are their thoughts and expressions about and during the pandemic. This is what they were thinking of during this unique time in our history, and this is why the works here do not all necessarily deal with COVID 19 itself. We were fortunate to attract a powerhouse roster of mother writers. Among the bylines you will see here are those of the famous and established in the literary community, but we wanted to promote a diversity of voices and share a wide array of narratives that encompass varied situations and experiences. So you will also see new names here that we hope to read more from in the future. Among the works in English, certain themes come to the fore: adaptation and adjustment, realization, and reminiscence. For adjusting and coping, Nikki Alfar recounts her family's efforts to adjust to life at home under lockdown. She writes, we found that relying on ourselves and each other, we've been able to get through the most dramatic upheaval of our lifetime so far, and I think we can all relate to this. Meanwhile, Alma Anona Scarpio sets aside her literary skills for her culinary ones to set up a small business as the economy goes sideways, selling bacon wrapped beef and carrot meatloaf stuffed with Gouda cheese, ginger garlic sauce, chicken liver pate, and cupcake sized baked chocolate cheesecakes. While Christine Lau and Amy Morales wax poetic, mother and daughter Alma Cruz Miklat and Banawi Miklat Jansen write about the challenges of learning, teaching, and continuing to make a home during the difficult months. US-based engineer Eleanor Strata, a pen name, debuts in Philippine publishing with a work that is both story and essay about the difficulty of working from home while caring for a rambunctious toddler and his attic cats. Rica Palomo Espiritu praises the recuperative powers of chicken soup, adding, "There are many ways to cook chicken soup, just as there are many ways to climb a mountain to pray to God." Neni Santa Romana Cruz talks of creating a nest for herself and her husband. Ana Felicia Sanchez cares for cats and her daughter amid a shower of golden Nara blossoms. Babette Lalarga's pandemic diary is reminiscent of Pepys' journal entries about the London plague, but with way more interesting details. Gina Lumawig spent her time helping others, soliciting food and other essentials for those trapped in Manila with no resources and no one to turn to during the lockdown. For Hope Sabapa knew her garden was her refuge. While Joanna Lynn Cruz's lockdown challenge was how to negotiate significant relationships in her life. Mia Tiham's heartbreaking story is about nursing her ill father at the outbreak of the pandemic when health workers in hospitals' capacities were most stressed, and how love conquers fatigue and pain. For the theme of realization, journalist Adele Chua's 4 grown children provided her with food for thought as they negotiated the quarantine. She writes, "Even when it is good and safe for the children to go back out into the world, the nest will always be here, and they know they have roots to return to." Barbara Eunice Novio, or rather Eunice Barbara Novio, writing in Thailand, tells how the pandemic brought her family closer to each other and how sometimes good advice is not the best thing to take. Angela Stewart Santiago shares her wry realizations about life and living. She writes, "It's life-changing enough growing old and counting down. The added threat of COVID-19 and the forced early retirement is a monumental hassle, freak out, bad trip." For reminiscence, Marot Nelmida Flores casts her mind back to the birth of her first baby and the medical travails that followed, as does Aida C.F. Santos, who writes of giving birth to her only daughter while a member of the underground fighting the Marcos dictatorship. Merly Alunan writes a story and essay of M, who meets an artist who changes her life. Why did we select the works of mothers in particular for this collection? Why not fathers too, pet parents, other folks? For one, we wanted a tight focus for the book, a common thread that would string together artists of different personalities, ages, and backgrounds. For another, the concept of a mother has a pull on our psyches. Carl Jung considers the mother, whether in positive or negative aspect, the most important archetype, because in her it seems that much is created, contained, maintained. Finally, there's the COVID-19 pandemic. While wreaking havoc on a global scale and throwing into disarray the patterns and routines of our lives, has brought to the fore the Filipino capacity for resilience, adaptation, and survival. We have seen and continue to see how our kababayan have shown a great ability to adapt to massive changes, and none more so than the mothers among us. They, whose role is to illuminate the home, not merely as decoration, but as leading and guiding lights. So it is with great pleasure and excitement that the Cultural Center of the Philippines, Philippine Pen, and our editorial team present this collection of essays, poems, and art that will serve as one of the documentaries of the uncertain season that 2020 was. And while it is likely that in the next few years the world will still be struggling to cope with the coronavirus's mayhem, we all hope to soon enter a gentler, kinder season for mothers and everyone.
Ang susunod na magsasalita ay isang nanay, nobelista at diarista, si Binibining Che Sarigumba.
Magandang araw sa lahat. Salamat sa pagsama sa amin sa launching ng ebook na likha ng mga ina, ang Uncertain Seasons, Mother's Right in the Time of COVID. Sa kabila ng pandemya, isang magandang proyekto ang ibinigay sa akin na makasama bilang editor ng koleksyong ito ang kapwa diarista at fiction writer na si Jenny Ortuste. Nang kausapin ako ni Bebang C tungkol sa project, wala akong ibang naisip kundi ang ganda ng project. 40 manunulat na pawang mga ina sa iisang aklat. Ano pa nga ba ang itatawag mo ron? Powerhouse cast, kumbaga. Sa ginawang group chat ni Bebang, dun kami nag-uusap-usap. At dahil magkakaiba ang schedule at oras namin, wala ring oras ang pagdating ng mensahe. May mga pagkakataong patulog pa lang ako ay may itinatanong na si Bebang or may suggestion na si Jenny. Nagpapadala rin ako ng message kahit madaling araw. Kumbaga, 24/7 ang pag-uusap namin sa proyektong ito. At sa ikli ng panahon, mga 1 buwan lang yata mahigit, ay nabuo ang In Certain Seasons, Mother's Right in the Time of COVID. Hindi lamang din 40 na obra ang nakapaloob dito, kundi 41. 41 na obra na likha ng mga ina. Sa panahon ng pandemya, hindi nga naman madali ang humabi ng mga letra. Bilang ina ay napakarami nating kwento na nais at dapat ibahagi. Ngunit lagit-laging ninanakaw ang pagkakataong iyon ng responsibilidad sa pamilya, sa anak, gayon din sa lipunan. Hindi pa rin tuluyang nawawala ang maling tingin sa ating mga babae, na dapat ay nasa bahay lang at inaalagaan ang mga mahal sa buhay. Pero sa kabila ng pagtingin iyan, hindi tayo tumitigil. Kumbaga, tuloy lang sa pagsulat. Tuloy sa pagpapakita ng kakayahan, tuloy sa pagharap sa hamon ng buhay at lipunan. Sa koleksyong ito, makikita mo ang bangis ng isang ina hindi lamang ngayong pandemya kundi sa kahit na anong panahon at pagkakataon. Isa itong patunay na kahit ano pa ang dumating na pagsubok ay kaya itong harapin ng mga kababaihan, nating mga ina. Kaya't gusto kong batiin at pasalamatan ang bawat ina na naghain ng kani-kanilang talento para mabuo ang bilingual ebook na ito. Nais ko ring pasalamatan ang book coordinator ng project na ito na si Geraldine Villarin. Salamat, Diday. Salamat din sa Philippine Pen at sa Cultural Center of the Philippines sa mga ganitong klaseng proyekto. Pagpupugay sa lahat ng mga ina sa iba't ibang panig ng bansa, mula Luzon, Visayas at Mindanao.
Now, we are proud to present the writers and the artists of the book In Certain Seasons. segment of our online launch is reading and messages from two of the 41 writers of our book. First, we have Miss Eleanor Strata. Born and raised in the Philippines, Eleanor Strata has been writing since she was 7 years old and stapling her stories together for her family. She studied engineering at the University of the Philippines and went on to work in several different industries. She now lives in New Jersey, USA, with her husband, her son, and their 2 cats. Here is Miss Eleanor Strata.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Strata. I'm a chemical engineer from the Philippines. About a decade ago, I migrated to the United States, and now I'm caring for a 5-year-old on top of a career in supply chain, on top of trying to find time to write. I chose to write this piece because during the pandemic, I found myself struggling, and I thought it would be interesting to have a peek into the life of a mother overcome with anxiety, because she's trying to navigate this new world with COVID, trying to balance childcare with working from home, with a bunch of other priorities. And of course, she has her own dreams and aspirations. And she feels she has to put them on hold because it's embedded in her that the needs of others should come first. So here is an excerpt from my piece called Shelved. It's 7:20 a.m. The cat crawls up against you, begging for petting. You pet her instead of prepping for a meeting at 7:30 a.m. You worked until 9 p.m. last night, and due to the oil tank running on empty, you've caught a cold. You decide it's perfectly fine to message your boss that you missed the meeting and take a half day. You tell him you're feeling under the weather. You don't share too many details. You don't want HR cracking down on you to get tested for COVID. You can probably still work and power through a small cold, but you're enjoying the warmth and softness of your cat too much. And that's it. I'd like to thank CCP and Philippine Pen for the unique and wonderful opportunity to be part of this project, for giving me a voice as a woman, as a mother, and as someone who's part of the Philippine diaspora. Writers like me with diverse backgrounds don't get many opportunities like this. So thank you so much, and I hope you all enjoy my piece.
Ang ikalawa nating tagapagsalita ay si Almayra Abbas Tiburon. Si Dr. Almayra Tiburon ay guro sa Mindanao State University, Marawi City. Bilang manunulat, ibig niyang ipakilala sa sari-saring komunidad na ang Meranao ay may makulay, dakila at makasaysayang kultura at tradisyon. Narito ang kaniyang mensahe.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. Agum mapiap kagabir tanulangon. Nang maimbitahan ako sa antolohiyang ito, hindi po ako nagdalawang isip. Especially, ang tema po ay tungkol sa pagiging ina sa pandemyang ito. Gusto ko pong maisulat ang aking naranasan tungkol sa pagluluwal, no? Dahil ayokong tangayin ng rumaragasang mga araw ang alaala ng pagluluwal ko sa pangalawang pagkakataon. Ang bawat babae ay tumatawid sa tulay ng pakikipaglaban. dahil gusto po niyang makaligtas sa hirap at sakripisyo, pagtitiis. Kaya naman po, nagpapasalamat po ako sa Cultural Center of the Philippines, ang Philippine Pen, si Ma'am Bebang si Ma'am Cesare Gumba, dahil sila po ang nasa likod ng proyektong ito at sa lahat ng tao na tumulong dito. Nagkaroon po kasi ng pagkakataon ang lahat ng ina, no, na kung saan ay marinig ang kanilang tinig. Tunay na hindi po matatawaran ang pagiging ina, lalo na sa panahong ito. Lahat po ay umiiri, lahat po ay may kanya-kanyang laban. Lahat ay kumakalinga, lahat ay nagmamahal. At wala pong hindi kinakaya ang mga ina pagdating sa kanilang anak. At ang pinakamaganda sa lahat, sa kabila ng lahat, ay may magandang nangyari sa panahong ito. Ang biyaya ng Diyos, ang maging ina. Nagpapasalamat po ako na makasama ang mga ina na tinitingala sa kanilang panulat. Mabuhay ang mga ina sa panahon ng pandemya. Mabuhay po tayong lahat. Pagbati po sa lahat. Assalamualaikum.
Upang isara ang unang bahagi ng ating online launch, narito ang tugon ng isang mambabasa sa ating libro. Isang nanay at Filipiniana reader mula Quezon City, si Azelia Barbero Ramos. Siya ay isa sa mga aktibong kasapi ng Pinoy Reads Pinoy Books Book Club.
Magandang araw po. Ako si Azzy Ramos, miyembro ng book club na Pinoy Reads Pinoy Books. Nang makatanggap ako ng paanyaya mula kay Bebang C na magbigay ng saloobin sa akdang ito na In Certain Seasons, Mother's Right in the Time of COVID, hindi ako nagdalawang isip na pumayag sapagkat malapit sa puso ko ang tema ng aklat na ito. So, bilang isa ring ina na patuloy na nakikipaglaban araw-araw sa gitna ng pandemyang ito, hindi ko maiwasan na hindi ko makita yung sarili ko sa mga akda habang binabasa ko ang aklat na ito. Merong pamilyar na dagan sa dibdib ng isang ina. At relate ako sa mga danas ng mga ina na nagbahagi ng karanasan nila sa akdang ito. At lalo na ako ay isa ring ina na inabot ng pandemya ang aking pagbubuntis at panganganak sa aming bunso. So, napakaganda na nagkaroon ng ganitong pagkakataon ang mga ina na makapagbahagi ng kanilang mga karanasan, lalo na sa gitna ng pandemyang ito. At alam naman nating lahat na hindi palaging nabibigyan ng pagkakataon ng mga kababaihan na malathala o makapaglathala ng ganitong mga akda. So, paano nga ba maging isang ina sa gitna ng pandemyang ito? Yan ang isa sa mga realidad na ipinapakita ng mga akda sa koleksyon na ito, kung papaanong nakikipagbuno ang mga ina araw-araw sa mga hamon ng buhay, may pandemya man o wala. At kung paano tayong ikinakahon ng lipunan sa kung ano man ang dapat nating maging pakinabang. Lahat yun makikita dito sa aklat na to, yung mga internal battles nating mga ina at yun nga, yung mga kakulangan na nararamdaman natin na hindi naman natin na i-verbalize. Lahat yun na ibahagi sa aklat na ito. At napakaganda na nagkaroon ng ganitong akda na maisi-share sa iba, maisi-share sa lahat. And in one way or another, magkakaiba man tayo ng mga karanasan sa buhay, magkakaiba man tayo ng mga estado, meron pa rin tayong pagkakapareho dahil iisa ang puso natin. Iisa ang puso natin bilang babae, bilang ina, bilang asawa. So, in one way, parang ito ay representation din ng bawat ina na araw-araw patuloy na itinatawid ang mga pagsubok, ang mga pangangailangan ng pamilya at higit lalo ng sarili bilang babae, hindi lang bilang ina. So bilang miyembro ng book club na Pinoy Reads Pinoy Books na sumusuporta sa mga akdang Pinoy, nakakatuwa na may mga ganitong pagkakataon, na may mga ganitong opportunities na para sa mga kababaihan. At syempre all out ang support namin sa ganitong mga akda. So, sa bumubuo ng CCP Intertextual Division at sa 40 mga kababaihan na parte ng koleksyon na ito, isang pagbati, mabuhay po kayong lahat, mabuhay po ang lahat ng mga ina, napakaganda ng lahat ng mga nakasulat, lahat ng maakda sa librong ito, at sana ay mas marami pa. Sana mas marami pa yung mabigyan ng pagkakataon na makapagbahagi din ng kanilang mga karanasan, ng kanilang mga saloobin. At mas marami pa din nawa ang ma-reach out ng ganitong klaseng mga akda. Marami pong salamat.
Now we will welcome everyone to the second half of our launch. We are very grateful that you are spending your afternoon with us. Please comment down below your feedback about this launch. Ang unang magbabahagi ng mga hakbang sa pagsusulat ng tula ay si Dr. Ruth Elinia Mabanglo. Si Dr. Ruth Elinia Mabanglo ay premyadong makata. Nakapaglathala na siya ng 6 na aklat ng tula at 2 aklat ng mga dula. Siya ay Professor Emeritus ng Filipino and Philippine Literature sa University of Hawaii at Manoa. Narito po ang isa sa manunulat ng ating libro, Dr. Ruth Elinia Mabanglo.
Ako po si Elinia de los Santos Mabanglo. Ako ay isang makata at nagsimula ako sumulat nung ako'y 7 taong gulang pa lamang. Sinasabi ng marami na akong kauna-unahang babae sa Pilipinas na nakapagpalimbag ng tula sa wikang Pilipino. Marami ring humahanga sa mga tulang sinulat ko sapagkat tinatalakay nito ang karaniwang mga problema ng mga kababaihan sa Pilipinas. Patuloy ako nagsusulat ng tula sabay sa aking pagtuturo na ngayon ay pinagretiruhan ko na. Dati akong profesor sa University of Hawaii at ngayon ay isang emeritus professor na. Narito ako muli sa Pilipinas sapagkat narito ang aking mga mambabasa at narito rin ang ugat ng aking pagtula. Paano sumulat ng tula na di mo ikahihiya? madaling magpanggap, madaling magtengang kawali. Madali kasi tayong malunod sa paghanga sa mga kaibigan nating nasisiyahan sa malalalim na salitang hindi naririnig sa araw-araw. O sa naiibang pagtatahi-tahi ng mga salitang hindi karaniwan sa mga karaniwang usapan. Ayaw natin ng karaniwan. Bakya yan. Ayaw natin ng naririnig sa kadalasan. Gusto natin yung bihirang masambit. Hindi madalas marinig. Ganon nga ba ang tula? Pagkabihira ng salita o parirala? Pagkabihira ng tunog? Pagkabihira ng kahulugan? Hindi kaya maaring bihira ang salita, bihira ang tunog, bihira ang pagkakabuo ng parirala, ngunit hindi naman tula? Baka maritmong ingay ng pompyang, ngunit hindi kadaloy ng ibang tumutunog na instrumentong kasabay nito. Ano ang pagkakaiba ng musika? Ano ang tinulang sinulat na may kariktan at tulang may kawawaan? Ito ang mga tulang nagtataglay ng lahat ng salik ng paglikha. Pampanula ang wika, pampanula ang damdamin, ritmo, talinghaga at pampanula ang mensahe. Ang limang ito ang nagtatakda ng istruktura, ng himig, ng kahulugan at ng pagiging tula ng tula. Saka na natin isaalang-alang ang mga panlabas na katangian gaya ng saknong o gaya ng sukat. Maaring walang saknong at maaring walang sukat, ngunit natutugunan ang mga kahingian ng mabuting tula. Halimbawa, ang tulang "Ang gabi lumalapit at akong ito'y walang damit." Tatlong mahalagang salita lamang ang naroon: gabi, lumalapit, at damit. Sinasabi ng gabi ang oras, sinasabi ng lumalapit ang galaw, at sinasabi ng walang damit ang kondisyon. Nasaan ang kahulugan? Nasa bumabasa. Siya ang nagsasaad ng dating ng tula batay sa kanyang interpretasyon. Hindi sukat ang katangian ng tula. Hindi tugma. Bagaman mayroon ang mga ito. Kondisyon ang malalim na muhon ng pagpapakahulugan. Sa mga sinaunang panulaan natin, gaya ng mga bugtong, salawikain at mga kasabihan, nababasa natin ang henyo ng kaisipang Filipino. Simple-simple lamang ang mga salita. May sukat na bahagya at may tugma, ngunit gadaigdig ang mga laki at lalim ng kahulugan. Halimbawa, naupo si maitim, sinulot ni mapula, heto na si maputi, kakarakara. Kung tutuusin, parang paglalaro ng salita, gamit ang mga kulay, itim, pula, puti. Alam ba ninyo ang sagot sa bugtong na ito? Ito ang sinaing. Si maitim ang palayok, si mapula ang apoy, at si maputi ang kumukulong sinaing na sumusubo. Kung sa gayon, hindi na ito masasagot ng bata kasi wala nang palayok. Wala nang apoy na kinukuha sa mga apoy na panggatong. Rice cooker na kasi ang gamit ngayon. Kitang-kita ninyo ang implikasyon, di ba? Nakatanim sa kultura ang bugtong. Nakatanim sa kultura ng pang-araw-araw na buhay ang tula. Alisin mo ang daigdig na kinamulatan ng iyong mga hinagap at danas at walang lupang pagsusuplingan ng tula. Sa makatwid, ang pampanulaang wika ay nakatanim sa ating buhay at pamumuhay. Nakatanim sa ating mga pangarap at kasawian. Nakatanim sa ating puso at utak. Kaugnay nito, hindi maihihiwalay sa wika ang damdamin. Paano nagiging matulain ang damdamin? Dapat bang sabing iyak ng iyak upang madama ang kalungkutan, mga salitang hagulgol para sa kasawian. Wala sa individual na salita o parirala ang pampanula ang damdamin. Nasa pagkakasalito ng mga salitang bumubuo ng mga tunog at larawang siyang nag-aanyo ng kahulugan. Siyang naglalahad ng damdamin. Kung minsan, nakakubli ang pampanula ang damdamin dahil nalalambungan ito ng ibang damdamin. Halimbawa, sa ikatlong saknong ng Kung Ibig Mo Akong Makilala, sabihin ninyo ang mga damdaming nakapaloob. Isang pag-ibig na lipos ng paglingap, tahanang malaya sa pangamba at sumbat. May suhay ng tuwa't kaluluway, walang takda. Ialay ng lahat ito sa akin, kung mahal mo ako at ibig palayain. At sa aking tulang gahasa, masasabi ba ninyo ang samut-saring damdaming inilalahad ng bawat saknong? Gahasa. Ginahasa ako ng mga salita. Paulit-ulit, paulit-ulit, hanggang magutay ang diwa. Buntis ang alaala sa mga alimura, pasa-pasa ang puso't lamay sa lanta. Nagsumbong ako sa dilim, sumugat ang sumbat sa yakap ng hangin. Nagsakdal ako sa dingding, ang katal ng dinig, bumalandrang lagim. Ginahasa ako ng mga akala, paulit-ulit, paulit-ulit, hanggang pagkatao'y mapariwarak. Pumintog sa puson ng haplit ng tinig, bitak-bitak ang bungo sa madlang hagupit. Nagsumbong ako sa batas, binusisit binayangyang ang aking bikas. Nagsakdal ako sa bayan, pinangaral at pinag-aralan ang ngalang ko't kasarian. Ginahasa ako ng mga pasya, minsan lang, at nagiba ang pag-asa. Ngunit hindi pampanula ang damdamin ang nagtatakda ng pagiging tula ng tula. Bukod sa kahulugan, galaw o ritmo ng tula at damdamin, isaalang-alang din ang talinghaga. Ang talinghaga ay hindi nakatali sa panahong sinulat ang tula. Bawat panahon, bawat henerasyon, bawat kapaligiran at bawat kalinangan ay makikita nito sa talinghaga. Talinghagang katutubo sa panahon, henerasyon, at sa pamayanang nagpapakahulugan sa tula. At kung bawat panahon, bawat pamayanan, bawat mambabasa ay kapagpapahalagang lubos sa tulang ito, nagiging klasiko ang tula. Lumalampas ito sa mga arabal o hangganan ng oras, kultura, pamayanan at kasarian. Nagiging walang hanggan ang tula. Sa makatwid, kung babalikan ko ang pamagat ng aking panayam, paano sumulat ng tulang hindi mo ikahihiya? Paano sumulat ng tulang hindi matatakdaan ng kasahulan sa wika, kasalatan sa kahulugan, kataliwasan ng damdamin at mayaman sa talinghaga? Iyan ang formula ng mabuting pagtula na hindi lamang kasiyahan ng pandinig, kundi naghahamon sa bawat panahong iugnay ito sa pang-araw-araw na buhay. Hindi lamang mayaman sa kahulugan, kundi mayaman din sa magiging pagpapahalaga ng sambayanan. Bayang ang tulay maging dukal ng bawat isang buhay, gayon din ang buhay ng sambayanan. Siya ring inaawit at pinahahalagahan ngayon at kailanman.
The last but not the least, we have a short talk on writing to be delivered by journalist Adele Chua. Adele Chua is a writer and editor for a national broadsheet. On her shelves, she has numerous books she has not yet read. On her hard drive, she has numerous movies and shows she has not yet seen. She's had an early start living a full life and is plotting, as she waits out the pandemic from her refurbished home office, how to make it even fuller.
Good afternoon. My name is Adele Chua. I'm one of the writers in this collection. I'm a journalist for a national broadsheet. I also teach journalism and work as writer and editor for various projects. I feel honored and privileged to be counted among the mother writers in the book In Certain Seasons. My essay, Nest Never Empty, attempts to provide a peek into my life with my four children, who aren't really children anymore. They're adults. Their ages are 26, 25, 20, and 18. Motherhood is crazy. Writing is crazy. But when you're a mom, and you're also a writer, that's doubly crazy. Later on, I will talk about something ironic and the saving grace to all this craziness. But let me just say, I'm not here today to preach or to tell anybody how best to go about being a mom or being a writer or being both. Everybody is different, and I think other people would be more qualified than I am to give a lecture on some topics, such topics. Instead, I'm here to share my experiences, my attempts and best efforts, how I am able to keep my sanity and keep myself intact despite the many demands and the many hats that I wear. So, why do I write? Many things. For me, it's a job that I have to do day after day because I work in a daily newspaper. I've learned to live with deadlines and do again tomorrow what you do today, and then do it again the day after that, and so on. But I find that the most rewarding kind of writing that I do is when I don't have to write it at all. I think writing is a way of freezing a moment or savoring an experience. Sometimes we take pictures, sometimes we close our eyes and tell ourselves, I will remember this moment for a long time. And then we desperately try to preserve that moment by writing about the physical things we see, the people we are with, the feelings we have. And then, when we read what we've written, we relive the experience. I also write to share things with my friends and family. Often, this is the kind that I do on Facebook. I must say, I'm old school. I just do Facebook, not really Twitter or IG, and only do TikTok rarely when I'm prodded by my daughters. Usually my social media posts are to share the editorials I write, or previous meals or the preparations that went into them, or some anecdote about my life with the baguettes, as I call them. More importantly, I feel that I write to steady myself when I feel just a bit overwhelmed or when I'm overcome with different emotions at the same time. It's like writing saves me by helping me make sense of the world. It accompanies my pause. But do mothers like us really have time to pause? In this book, we write about motherhood in the time of COVID-19. We describe the lives we lead, and in the several hundred words that we're given, we try to develop a story that says, yes, it's difficult, but this is us, and we would not have it any other way. Because motherhood is great, motherhood is glorious, it's the best job ever. If only it felt like that all the time. I have not yet read the other works in the book we are launching today, but I'm guessing that none of us talked about the not so glorious moments of being a mother. Like perhaps the time we wondered how our lives could have been otherwise if we did not pursue this path, or how difficult it is to project a strong and calm exterior when deep inside we're falling apart, or when you doubted whether you were even doing anything right, or when you felt selfish and resentful and shallow, when the usual depiction of mothers is being noble and self-effacing and profound. And then remember, this is only the mommy hat. We also have our professional hats, and that's an entire universe of chaos as well. Aside from motherhood and work, we have other things to attend to. We also have to be daughters to our own parents and realizing how wise they'd been all along. Some of us have partners or husbands, and then there are friends or other preoccupations like running the household or pursuing other fields of interests or hobbies. All these can drive us crazy. Living a life that is balanced is a myth or a cruel joke. If I were not a writer, I would have lost it already. But I'm a writer despite having this full, crazy life of so many preoccupations. I am also a writer because of it. Still, writing is a habit that must be cultivated. Otherwise, it would fritter away. I know we are living under different circumstances and we have different temperaments, but I'd like to share some of the things that I do to cultivate that habit, that writing habit. First of all, I recognize that personal space is very important. I know it's luxury for many, but I take my personal space seriously. This pandemic gave me an excuse to spend time in and make improvements to my home office. And now it sounds odd, but every time I go out of the house, especially for extended periods of time, I find that I miss my room. I miss my home office, and wishing I were back there instead. I don't have a big house, but personal space rarely has anything to do with physical space or how big something is. It's just your thought that this is my space, and in here I can be myself. I can do anything, or I can do nothing. So personal space for me is very important. Second, fight for time for yourself. It's always easy to feel guilty when you're a mom. I used to feel so guilty for wanting some time off or wanting to do things for myself. I thought it was selfish of me. It was only much later that I realized that time for ourselves is actually healthy and should not be something to be guilty about. In the long run, it will in fact make us better individuals, better moms. I'm not talking about extended vacations either. It doesn't have to be long. You can just do something you like, or even a chore or an errand. Binge watch your favorite show, or read or attend to your plans. Do your thing, whatever gives you peace and steadies you. Next, I try to keep my consumption of information in check. At least I give it a purpose. Sure, we can always go on social media, but we can read other things online also. Most of all, it's good every now and then to read something that's not from a screen. It's so nice to hold a book in your hands. With our many responsibilities, it's perhaps the first to go, reading time. But during the pandemic, I realized it should not be the case. So now I'm excited about making time for reading all over again. Next, I acknowledge my emotions at any given moment. I don't deny or try to mask them. Instead, I try to find out what's driving or triggering it and why I'm responding the way I am responding. I think we're always in control when we're able to give words and describe whatever it is we're feeling. And then we sit down and actually write. It doesn't have to be a complete article. It doesn't have to be an award-winning piece immediately. Don't edit yourself. Just write. Maybe even just a few paragraphs every time. And then every now and then look back at what you've written. You'll be amazed at the insight and the hindsight. And you can tell yourself, I wasn't so bad after all. Okay, I will end my sharing here. I hope I was helpful to all the moms out there who may feel they don't have the time or energy to continue with their passion. But we can. Thank you for attending this launch, and I hope you enjoy In Certain Seasons. Mabuhay ang mga ina, mabuhay ang mga manunulat at mga mambabasa. Mag-ingat po tayong lahat.
At this point, our launch is almost over. The CCP Intertextual Division's next online event will feature CCP's official literary journal, Annie. We are inviting everyone to the launch of the 41st issue of Annie. Thank you for being with us today. Check the CCP Facebook page and CCP Intertextual Division page for the link to the free copy of the ebook In Certain Seasons. Visit the said Facebook pages for more CCP events on arts and culture. You may also want to visit the CCP Shop Facebook page and check our catalog of various publications and merchandise. The CCP Shop is your one-stop online shop for art and culture books, multimedia products, hard-to-find publications, and limited edition merchandise. A variety of souvenir items from past and current productions, special memorabilia, and rare collectibles are just a click away. Please like the CCP Shop Facebook page, www.facebook.com/theccpshop, and follow the CCP Shop on Instagram. Be part of its mailing list and be the first to receive promo vouchers and steep special discounts on selected items. Happy shopping! Once again, thank you for joining us. This ends the online launch of In Certain Seasons, Mother's Right in the Time of COVID. Maraming salamat po.
Pagka